two champions. Defending World Cup winning captain, Michael Clarke, one of the best the world has seen, Nasser Hussain. Nasser, your commentary, Ben Stokes, remarkable, you can't do that. Is this England team the one to do what no England team has ever done?
Only time will tell, to be honest. There is no, as Michael knows, no God-given right to win any tournament. You have to work hard, especially this tournament. There are so many good sides in this tournament. At the moment, England look the best side. If everyone plays to their full potential, I think England will be there, will be here in the final. Semi-finals, final, no one knows what can happen in a one-off game. But I'd be very surprised if they don't make it through to the knockouts. They seem to have every single base covered. Last two winners have been the host nation. It could well be three in a row.
Michael, your mate Shane Warne reluctantly had to choose England as one of the favourites 1 hour back. You agree?
I agree that they are one of the favourites, yes.
So you added the one off just because it's England, is it?
I added the one off because Australia is in the competition.
Okay.
So I think Australia is one of the favourites as well.
So you actually think Australia, because Shane selected India and England and said Australia has an outside chance. But you think Australia one of the favourites as well?
I think Australia can win this tournament. I really do. I think 8 months ago I wouldn't have said that. Right now I think the momentum they got from beating India in India, then going to the UAE and beating Pakistan, and now add Steve Smith and David Warner back into this team, I think this Australian team can win another World Cup.
Come on. Nasser Hussain says England, Michael Clarke says Australia. This is an India Today conclave. Goodness. I mean, somebody has to say...
India will make the semi-finals.
Semi-finals. No, India, Australia, India, England, final, we win by 1 run. Let's give it to we are gracious hosts. But Nasser, India is waiting when everybody's playing 2 games, 3 games. They've got a week off, start their campaign June 5th. If I actually push you to identify 4 semi-finalists, who would those 4 be?
I can give you 5. I'm not sure I can give you 4. England, Australia, New Zealand, West Indies. Who have I mentioned there? England, India, Australia, New Zealand, West Indies. That's 5. 4 of those 5, you just don't know until net run rate could come into it. Any 4 of those 5 could not only reach the semis, but could win this tournament.
Michael?
I think my 3 certainties are Australia, England, India to make the semi-finals. And then I think West Indies are the dark horse. I really think West Indies are the type of team that are going to make 380, 400 and then be bowled out for 100. So it really depends what day you get. But I think they're going to be the 4th team in the semis.
Okay. 2 of the best leaders. So let's talk a little bit about leadership, because that's something that we've not touched about today. Harbhajan Singh was on stage a few minutes back with Ranveer Singh and said, even if Virat Kohli is captaining this team, MS Dhoni is the real brain, is the best captain the world has seen since Sourav Ganguly. Leadership, how important is it in a 50-over format? How important is the role of Eoin Morgan? Again, please, can I have some silence from the right side? How important is the role of Eoin Morgan? Because several rate him as one of the best captains. Nasser?
Very important. I mean, the whole reason England are favourites for the tournament is because of Eoin Morgan and his brave style of captaincy and cricket. He has been very determined to continue on this path and have no doubts at all. What is the one thing that's going to hold England back on this tournament is not talent, it's pressure. As Michael knows, once you go into a tournament as favourites at home, you have to deliver. Everyone, the expectation, we saw it at the Oval the other day, they were singing, cricket's coming home. They seem to be getting a little bit ahead of themselves, the England fans. But that's the expectation and pressure. And one thing Eoin Morgan does seriously well is soak up pressure. He is the coolest, calmest captain. He's got a little bit of MS Dhoni about him, that sort of Mr. Ice cool. But you just, as I say, on a given day, he's got to make sure he translates that into a performance for his team, so that if they are playing India in a semi-final and India go out and get 370 and it's spinning, can they then deliver? That's not about captaincy, that's about performing when it counts. The great Australian sides, when they won those big tournaments, it wasn't about captaincy, it was about delivering on the day. Their star players, whether it be the final here against Pakistan, when Warne bowled that spell, whenever, they have always delivered under pressure.
He's actually set it up for you, Michael. But before that, think about this. Liverpool wins the Champions League. Europa League, 2 English sides. England go on to win the cricket tournament. What will happen to this country? So what if Brexit's not working?
No, if they're good enough, then they deserve to win. I agree with Nasser. The fact that England's the number 1 ranked team in the world, they're playing in their own backyard, and there is huge expectations. And I think the England players would expect to win this tournament, because their cricket has been so consistent over a long period of time. But there's no given. You have to earn the right. And I was really impressed with the way they started against South Africa. I thought that might have been a really good indication for all of us to see how England were dealing with the expectation, the pressure. But it wasn't just the fact they won, it was the way they come out and played. They lost Bairstow in the first over, yet they still played with that aggressive intent and approach. So I think that holds England in good stead. It shows they're not scared of losing, they don't fear failure, and they're willing to play the brand of cricket that has helped them have success. But in saying that, I still think there's other teams in this World Cup that can compete and beat England on their day. I think you look at a number of the teams, there's some good bowling attacks, both fast bowlers and spinners, so you can get batsmen out, and I think that's your greatest challenge on good flat wickets.
He mentioned the word pressure. I mean, you were unwell. You were recuperating from a career-threatening injury, coming back, playing the World Cup at home, calling it a day on the eve of the World Cup final in that press conference, winning it for Australia. Can you tell us, I mean, home pressure, home advantage, what is more? Is it home advantage that helps you, or 100,000 people at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, or 45,000? Unfortunately, it wasn't 45,000 because there were 29,000 Indians in the SCG when India and Australia played. So Michael was outnumbered. But talk to me about home pressure.
Yeah, look, I think there's so much expectation from within as a professional athlete that you want to perform every time you walk out onto the field. You expect to win. That's why you train every day. So I think that is always going to be more pressure than anybody else can put on you. And I really saw playing in front of the Australian fans as a positive. I thought, there's going to be times through that 2015 World Cup where we might feel a little flat, we might be playing as well as we'd like, and we tried to use the crowd to really get us up and support us. And that was probably how I saw the home ground advantage. I didn't really see it as any extra pressure. But, I think it comes from where you see the team. As captain, I felt in 2015 that we had the right team to win that World Cup if we played at our best. So the important job for me as captain was to get the best out of the players and make sure we played the tournament one game at a time.
Now, sir, 2015 getting knocked out by Bangladesh, and then something happens to 50-over cricket in this country. Is this the best 50-over side that England has ever seen?
Oh, yeah, best England side.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
By a country mile. Completely different. Anyone around the world will tell you that. There has never been a better England white ball side than this. At the end, when they were knocked out against Bangladesh, in the old days, we used to reward test match players like myself or Michael Atherton or Alistair Cook, whoever. They used to go and give them a reward, go and play in white ball cricket. It wasn't whether you were good enough or not, just go and play white ball cricket. At the end of that World Cup, the last one, Owen Morgan sat down with Andrew Strauss and said, this has got to change. We have players. We have Jason Roy. We have Alex Hales. We have Joss Butler. We have all these lads that can play white ball cricket. Why aren't we picking them? So we picked them, picked a coach that understands white ball cricket as well in Trevor Bayliss, has a lot of success in white ball cricket, and the revolution began. And it's also quite cyclical, because before that, apart from maybe Peterson and Flintoff to a degree, various leagues like the IPL didn't want our white ball players, so we never got any better. Now that we got better, IPL wants Joss Butler, they want Ben Stokes, they want Johnny Bairstow, they want all these cricketers, and they get even better. And we're seeing that on the world stage now.
Both of you have been serious supporters of Virat Kohli. Let's get to Virat. I mean, 1.3 billion. Today morning, yesterday Virat had a thumb injury and the whole of India was almost had come to a standstill. What's happening to the captain? And he says, am I allowed to sneeze? I mean, yes, it's a joke, but to talk about the amount of pressure that we have put on that man. 1.3 billion, he's beaten Australia and Australia in a test series. Hypothetically speaking, if he goes on to win this World Cup, will he become the best ever captain batsman in the history of the game, given the amount of pressure that there is on him? Michael, you go first.
Will he be the best ever captain batsman that India's ever had? I think that's a big call. I'd probably separate the two. I think there's, when I think of Indian captains, the standouts for me are Sourav Ganguly and MS Dhoni. I think Virat continues to grow and get better as a captain. And I think he's doing a wonderful job in getting the best out of his team. As a batsman, there's probably no one that's even close to him in one-day cricket, to be honest. I think his record sits him on his own. I think of the two greatest players I ever saw were Sachin Tendulkar and Brian Lara. And I guess, through my career growing up, I got to watch those two a lot in particularly Test cricket. But they were both great one-day players as well. But I feel like at the moment, Virat's standard in one-day cricket, statistically, is better than anybody else. So, look, he's a great of the game. And again, like Sachin, to be able to handle the pressure and the expectation of 1.3 billion people idolising him, and then day after day be able to walk out onto the field and perform, just sets you apart. I think of, for me, the other one as well, who I think's here at the moment, Sunil Gavaskar, the way he played, the way he set a foundation for Indian cricket, the way, he grabbed the nation and really made Indian cricket so special to this country. I think, Sunny deserves a lot of credit for that as well.
Nasir, always, when we talk Virat Kohli and this partnership sort of keeps coming up, Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni. How important is MS Dhoni behind the stumps for a Virat Kohli?
Well, I think they dovetail pretty well. The coolest character on the planet, MS Dhoni. Imagine being in Mumbai that night, 2011, and you just turn to the coach and say, you know what, I'd like to go up the order and finish this World Cup off and win it. And he does with the hit over long on like he did. That is cool, calm, I want to be in the middle delivering. So when you're Virat Kohli, you're the other extreme, really. Virat, in everything he does at 100 mile an hour. You watch him play football before a game, he wants to win. He is basically a winner. He's that driving force. Why are his stats so good in a run chase? Because he sees this target, he sees winning, and that is all in his mind. He's not worried about the dollar sign, the pound sign, the billions of Indians that are following him. His day is not complete unless he has won. Doesn't matter if he's got 150 and lost. So I think that's his greatest asset as a captain, the driving force. I was there in the 2011 World Cup and I interviewed him when he was running around the ground. I said to him, what's it like being, carrying Sachin on your shoulders? And he went, well, Sachin has carried Indian cricket over the last 15 years. And I thought there will never be a cricketer in India that can replace Sachin Tendulkar. And there was. And it is a remarkable story that you think Sachin's record will never be broken, and the lad that was there on that day carrying Sachin around the ground it will break his records. And that is a phenomenal achievement. He is a phenomenal player.
Michael, on the day of Sachin's retirement, Sachin was at the Wankhede sitting on his cricket coffin and crying. Virat Kohli walks up to Sachin Tendulkar, touches his feet as we do in India, paying respect to elders. And he wears these strings around his arm, his hand. He opens them. He says, my late father had given these to me and said, if there was anybody I respect the most, I should give these to that person. You are the only person who deserve all of this. So he touches Sachin's feet and gives them to Sachin. And Sachin, very emotional, takes Virat and says, Tujhe yahan nahi, as in, not on my feet, but you've got to be here in my heart. And they embrace. And for me, that one moment, the baton passed from one legend to the other. And as Nasir said, 4900s will be broken this year. Unbelievable.
It's phenomenal.
25 in a run chase.
Yeah, and I think it's a great example of what sport does as well. It allows you to, not just look up to somebody, but actually idolise them. And I think a big part of, Virat's success, I think he's got a lot of that drive from watching the likes of Sachin be so successful, or, the way Sourav or MS captained India. I think Virat says that openly as well, that he has his own style, he has his own way, but he's taken little pieces of knowledge and information and success from a number of different players. And I think Sachin was obviously one of the guys that he idolised. You know, the one thing again, people see Virat Kohli on the field and see that aggressive intent and that want to win attitude. There's not too many nicer people off the field as well. So kind, so gentle, wants to give back to the game. And Sachin was exactly the same. Sachin, you could see that on the field, but you also get that from Sachin off the field.
Nasser, let's be blunt here. I mean, do you actually agree with this kind of aggression? On your face, jumping up and about. Several people have criticized him. Kagiso Rabade yesterday on record says Virat Kohli is immature, can't take criticism. If you give it to him, he loses it. How do you as a captain who's been there, done that several years, look at Virat Kohli's aggression on the field?
Well, I love it, to be honest. I mean, I played... Indian cricket changed because of one friend of yours and mine, and that was Sourav Ganguly, right? Before, Sourav never was bothered about being friends with people, you know, keeping Steve Waugh waiting for the toss didn't bother him too much. Taking his shirt off and waving it on the balcony at Lord's didn't bother him too much. Before Ganguly, most of the people, as most of Indians are, and remember, I was born in that country, most of the Indians are people like people in this room. Very welcoming, very lovable, very friendly. Ganguly transformed India from a very lovable, very friendly, very nice cricketing nation into a ruthless cricketing nation. One that was just interested in winning. And that has been taken on. And if I ask people in this room, which would they prefer? A very nice Indian team being knocked out in the semi-final, or a ruthless, in-your-face Virat Kohli team being here and lifting the World Cup?
Okay.
Make your choice.
You know, and now that Nasser mentions Sourav Ganguly open his shirt, 2 quick points. When Sourav was opening his shirt, the man who was on stage before this session, Harbhajan Singh, was actually telling him, should I open also? Should I? Should I? And VVS Lakshman, the quintessential good boy of Indian cricket, was telling them, you can't, this is Lord's. That's why Indian cricket, it is what it is. And if anyone, and 55% visitors to the Lord's Museum are Indians, the one question they ask each time they come, where did Sourav Ganguly open his shirt? So it's that temple at Lord's where Sourav Ganguly, where we pay our homage as Indian fans. Anyway, Michael Clarke, winning yesterday also when David Warner and Steve Smith were batting together, they were barracked, they were booed, they were called cheats. How do you as players react to such crowd behavior? Will they take it in their stride? We know what they've been through. They've come back and how important they are to Australia. How important are these two and what difference do they make?
Yeah, they make a huge difference. They're two great players. And they're two very different personalities as well. I think someone like David Warner, he won't feel the criticism at all. It won't affect him. He'll probably embrace it and wind the crowd up and laugh along with them. If they're booing, he'll boo with them. It won't bother him. Steve Smith's a lot different, a lot more emotional. He'll probably feel it a lot more. But I think both these players are expecting to be booed as well. I think they know what comes with the events of the past 12 months. I think they're both just so excited to be back in the Australian team, back playing, and both performing really well. So I think Australia's a different team with them. There's no doubt about it. Without Smith and Warner, I don't think we can win this World Cup. With them in good form the way they're playing, I think Australia can.
You know, when you look at it from the outside, I mean, do they deserve the treatment that they got? I mean, now that they are back and the way they are being treated here, or fine, it happens.
Well, they did the crime, and now they've served the time. I think we as broadcasters have to move on from it. They've done their time. Some would say a year was a little bit excessive, to be honest, but they've done it. We've all made mistakes in life. You move on. And now they're back playing. Australia have done absolutely the right thing to pick them. They're the best two players, or two of the best players on the planet right now. Smith and Warner, how can you leave Smith and Warner out your side? No way. Serious players. So, but as Michael said, you know, can you imagine being Nasser Hussain and Michael Vaughan going to Australia and having committed such a crime? You would be standing at the MCG or the SCG and the same sandpaper gags would be coming out. There's no difference. Most of it is done in good humour. I saw yesterday at Bristol on those flats at the top, there were a couple of people dressed as full blobs of sandpaper. So most of it is in good jest, and I think Warner and Smith will take it in good jest. And do you know what? I don't know them very well, Warner and Smith, but I reckon the more you do it, the more they are going to be right. I'll show you, and I will prove you. And not only is there a World Cup, but there is an Ashes series straight after. It won't affect them one single bit. Australian cricketers are a little bit tougher than that. That won't bother them one bit.
Agree. You know, Shane Warne was in one of the sessions before this one, and we talked a bit of spin. You know, the way recent cricket is being played, 7-8 runs being scored in the middle overs. Do you think that spin, especially wrist spin with Kuldeep and Chahal, can have a major bearing on this World Cup for India? Perhaps India is the only team with 2 such spinners, Nasser?
It's all relative. I think the days of a spinner running up and bowling 10 overs, 4 for 30 or something, as the great Shane Warne himself or Harbhajan or something like that, those days have gone, because I think with the fielding restrictions, the pitches, the skill of the batsman, the 360 hitting, the ball staying hard, I think if you now bowl 10 overs, 3 for 60, you have made a serious impact on that game. And they're the sort of stats that the Indian spinners and better will play. I think wrist spin has a massive role to play. There's also been a big crackdown on actions. So a lot of the mystery spinners that used to spin it both ways and bowl doostras, etc., have been taken out of the game. Even someone like Narain has gone out of the game internationally and he can't bowl those varieties. So spin will have a huge impact. The only difference between this and previous Champions trophies in England, the pitches will stay pretty good. There won't be as many used pitches. Like India, we played in the final at Edgbaston, was a used pitch, if you remember, and they spun India to victory. Pakistan in a semi-final was a used pitch, and England got stuck. So I think the pitches will stay good.
Kuldeep and Chahal, same question. I mean, India is clearly banking on these two, and you know, with wrist spin, they changed that with the Champions Trophy, the one that Nasser mentioned. Ravichandran Ashwin, who will be joining us today, Ravindra Jadeja, 2 solid spinners, quality spinners, because they were finger spinners, were left out for Kuldeep and Chahal.
I actually think India is going to go Chahal and Jadeja. I think they're going to pick Jadeja because of his batting. He offers extra batting. He scored 50 in the first practice game. So I think their starting 11 will leave Kuldeep Yadav out, which is a big call. But again, I think conditions as well. I did the game yesterday, watched Adam Zampa bowl against Afghanistan for Australia. And the one thing about bowling spin here in these conditions, you get consistent bounce and consistent pace. So when you face spin in India, for example, that length that you get LBW, sometimes here in the UK you can actually get back and pull and get back and cut. So I think Zampa found that quite difficult yesterday as well, the extra bounce that was at that oval in Bristol. And I think that's probably what India will be thinking. They'll want accuracy and they'll want batting depth. So I think they'll go with one back of the hand bowler in Chahal, but then I think they're going to pick Kuldeep. I think they're going to pick Jadeja in front of Kuldeep.
Okay, I mean, I differ on that, but that's for the 5th for us to see. Kuldeep, you know, gets a lot of confidence from Virat Kohli, the captain, and that makes a massive difference to our sport. Both of these gentlemen referred to Sourav Ganguly. I've not got too much time left. I've got to get Michael Clarke to tell you, you've got to tell my audience this Sourav Ganguly story. You've not heard this, hear it from Michael Clarke. Over to you, mate. You've got to tell us this story.
No, I think Nasser said it. Sourav used to, particularly against Australia, he wanted to show Australia who was boss and that Steve Waugh wasn't going to boss him around, which one of the things Steve Waugh loved to do as captain was dictate terms. So I remember, I actually wasn't at the game, but I remember hearing this story in the change room that once again, Steve Waugh walked out to toss a coin. It was I think it was a first-class game or a tour game it might have been. So there was no match referee. Sourav made him wait at the pitch, and then he walked out sort of 10 minutes later, and Steve Waugh was like, you know, where is this guy? What's taking so long? And Steve Waugh was the home team captain, so he tosses the coin, and Sourav, as the coin goes up in the air and it's on its way down, calls head-tail. He says the word head and tail at the same time. Bends down, picks the coin up, gives it to Steve Waugh and says, thank you, we'll bat first, and then walks off the field. And as Steve was standing there thinking, did Sourav Ganguly say heads and tail? And then tell me that he was batting. By that stage, Sourav was off the ground and had his pads on. He was ready to bat.
I did not believe this one until Michael actually went to Sourav Ganguly's house over lunch in Kolkata and got Sourav to, he said, did you do this? And all Sourav did was laugh. So anyway, but that's Sourav Ganguly and leadership for you. Will Virat do that? Virat actually said, Sourav asked him, I opened my shirt at Lord's for the NatWest final. What will you do? And Sourav adds, saying Virat will not only do it at Lord's, he will take his shirt off and run on Oxford Street. And Virat says, not me alone. He was on India Today saying this. Not me alone. Jasprit Bumrah, Hardik Pandya and 2 others will join me. This is the new India.
But one thing is for certain, it will be a better sight than Ganguly taking his shirt off. I think Sunil might have gone, but the shape of the Indian cricketers is improving. There's a little bit more facial hair nowadays than there used to be, but they are so trim now.
But
Kohli
on the
spends all
other
his
hand,
life in
Nasser,
the gym.
On the other hand, look at this. No six-packs, no Virat Kohli physique, conservative bastion, tradition of cricket, you still open it. Credit to Sourav.
Yeah, but I didn't sleep for about a month after, you know.
Anyway, last 5 minutes. Okay, Nasser Hussain, will this tournament, I mean, if England does go all the way, you still ask a few people in this country and they'll say, you know, we're waiting for the Ashes. Will this make a big difference to the white ball game if England does win this tournament?
Oh, absolutely. It'll make a huge difference to cricket in this country. I was here, I brought my daughter to the Women's World Cup final, where England absolutely hammered some other nation. I can't remember what that nation was. Oh, it was India, yeah, that's right. And, you know, that day was absolutely magnificent. And my daughter went home that day and she realized it was cool for girls to play cricket, for women to play cricket. So an event like a World Cup absolutely brings a nation together. You see it with our football, whatever. If we can, it's a massive if. I'm not getting ahead of myself, or the country shouldn't. If we can, there is a legacy there. That it will be, future generations will see that white ball cricket is seriously important. These guys out there, they're hugely marketable now, but their value in franchises around the world, well, you can put another nought on it if Butler goes out and smashes 100 in 30 balls in a World Cup final. So it will have a huge impact. But I repeat, don't take anything for granted. This lot will turn up on the day. India will turn up on the day. New Zealand, West Indies, with their batting lineup, could turn up on the day. So nothing's written in stone, but England, at least England, have given themselves the best chance to win it, which they've never done before.
Nice. In fact, you know, I agree with everything that Nasser said, except the first part. We broadcasters are sensationalists, and he's demonstrated why. That match, England won by 9 runs, did not hammer us. 3/4 of the game, 4/5 of the game, we won. Indian women, they were there till 11:30 after the game, lamenting, how did we lose that? Jhulan Goswami 10-22-3. I will still say England were lucky. Okay. Michael, last couple of questions before I let the two of you go. You know, when you play a World Cup, you've got a team like India has. Jasprit Bumrah, excellent, good spinners, good batsmen. How much is it in the heart? In the ability to soak in pressure? How much is it potential to go out there and perform? Semi-final, you've come top of the group, you're playing a one-off game, you can get knocked out. How do you embrace that occasion?
Yeah, I think when you look at a lot of these teams, the skill of the teams is very consistent. I don't think there's, you know, 1 or 2 particular teams that stand above everybody else. I think it's the handling the pressure, dealing with the occasion, and then having the confidence to go and play your natural game that's going to be the difference between who wins this World Cup and not. You know, there's, as Nasser said, 4, 5, 6 teams that are good enough to make the final, and then how you deal with that occasion is going to be the difference. I like momentum, I like confidence. I feel if you bring that into a tournament like this, and you can start playing with freedom, I think that's exactly where you want to be as a team. And I feel like there's probably a couple of teams that are doing that at the moment. The practice games were good for them to get some momentum and have started this World Cup, you know, with that confidence. You also want your best players. In the biggest occasion, your best players are the ones that need to stand up. And I think, you know, I think of the Australian team. That's why the importance of the two guys we've just spoken about, Warner and Smith, what makes them so important is because of the occasion if Australia do make the semi-final or do make the final. These guys have been in World Cup finals before. They've dealt with, you know, maximum amounts of pressure before, and they can handle it. They can have success on that stage. And that's where you get questioned as a player. That's what you look forward to as a player. You want to be on that stage. But some people handle that a lot better than others. That fear of failure or those nerves can sometimes get the better of you. So you need to be well prepared, you need to know your game, and you need to be excited about that occasion.
Okay, last question. Everyone's hungry, we've got to break for lunch. Nasser, if you have to identify one batsman and one bowler, same for Michael, who you think will be the stars of this World Cup?
Well, I don't read into the future, but the past is usually a good indicator of the future, and the past in the last 4 or 5 years, the greatest batsman on the planet has been Virat Kohli. So the past gives you a good indicator. Kohli came here in the Test series last summer, put his ego behind him, and played Anderson and left Anderson and racked up the runs. The rest of India didn't too much, but Kohli did. As far as bowler goes, there is a lad that's burst on the scene in Jofra Archer that I tell you, if Hashim Amla, I know he's getting on a bit, but that ball that hit Hashim Amla the other day, Amla plays quick bowling pretty well, and from nowhere this thunderbolt came. So any batsman in this World Cup better be ready for this lad that just runs in and hurls it down at 94 mile an hour. Archer and Kohli.
Michael?
My leading run scorer for the World Cup is going to be David Warner, and my leading wicket taker for the World Cup is going to be Bumrah.
Wow, so we've got one Indian from both of them. So now let me sum this up saying this. Again, we'll be gracious hosts on India Today like we always are. I will say it'll be an Australia versus England semi-final. India will play the other one. Whoever comes to the final, we win by 1 run. How about that? On that note, ladies and gentlemen, two super captains, super human beings, great friends, Michael Clarke and Nasser Hussain.